All right, first up, can Jared Goff win a Super Bowl?
No.
It's just the opening question. I tend to agree. I mean, Sean McVay said it, right?
You had your shot here, man.
I just think that he's too flawed.
I disagree with that.
He could, right?
I mean, obviously.
But I think if I had to put the odds right now of Jared Goff winning a Super Bowl, I think it's 5% max. Long shot.
If they were healthy on defense, he would have won it this year.
Well, he lost his coordinator.
I don't know if they would have. I mean, he's still.
When you take the field knowing your defense can't stop anybody, it changes the way you play. It changes the way the quarterback plays. It changes the way that offense calls games. By the way, he didn't call the stupid play to run the reverse to Jamison Williams to throw a pass.
I thought it was a good ball.
Knowing Jamison Williams, they probably tell him, look, if it ain't there, throw it into the crowd. And Jamison was going to throw it.
Got that wrong.
It was a bad call. But Goff didn't play well. But you play differently when you know your team is pressing, and the defense was a shell of itself. He would have won the Super Bowl this year.
Dude, my answer to this question is not because of Jared Goff. It's because of all the other quarterbacks that are in the National Football League right now. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. The list goes on. Jalen Hurts is primed to win one this year. There's a lot of names out there.
Okay, but having said all that, if the Lions were healthy, would they have been the Super Bowl champion?
What's an if?
Okay, so I guess
funny if joke.
Yes, Jared Goff can.
If you're in,
I get the
coaches always do this.
And a mustache.
I'm more answering the question of will. I just don't think he will. I think we've seen him on enough big stages to see that if it takes 3 games in the playoffs, one of those games you're going to get a bad Goff. And
bad Goff. No good. Bad Goff.
You didn't have bad Goff last year, and they didn't win it.
Well, yeah, but
that was bad Campbell.
Yeah, bad Campbell. That's always a concern too.
Goff's not going to raise you above your talent level, and if you're not raising above talent level, then you need to have an insane talent level, and you can only maintain what they have.
Well, if they had an insane talent level that got hurt, they would have won the Super Bowl this year if they were healthy. And I didn't pick them before the season, but I'm going to sit here and say the Lions would have won the Super Bowl if they were healthy.
I agree with you, but they're not.
No.
And Jared Goff is 5%er.
5%. All right, true or false? Jaden Daniels is having the best playoffs all time for rookie quarterback.
He's having the best rookie season of all time.
Is he?
Yes. Since the merger, because I'm not.
When did the merger happen?
In 1970. Okay. So basically, if you go back and look at their history of the best rookie seasons since the merger, Roethlisberger, you mentioned, he went undefeated that year when he took over. And then lost in the playoffs.
Was it 11 wins, 10 wins?
13, I think it was. And then Andrew Luck had a great rookie season. Marino had a phenomenal rookie season.
Marino had 2,200 yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions in 11 games. He had a 96 passer rating.
What was his touchdowns and interceptions?
20 and 6.
In that time, that's like having 35.
11 games.
That's like having
30K the next year.
That's like having 35 in 11 games out. So yeah, Marino's in the conversation as well. Luck, Russell Wilson had a good rookie year. Mm-hmm. Remember, he won the job. Matt Flynn. They paid Matt Flynn based on one game.
Packers.
Based on one game, and that's another great accident in the history of the NFL because he threw for over 400 yards in that game. Remember,
almost
Matt Flynn? Yeah,
did he throw for 5? I think he threw for 500 yards.
Was it 500?
Yeah,
that's what Brian Hoyer did for the Bears.
I remember I broke it. I remember I broke that game down. And I said, "No way, I'm paying that guy all little screen bubble screens and stuff like that." It was all a lot of action.
These guys just don't watch; they just pay, huh?
You think they learn?
It's crazy.
So
480, excuse me.
Yeah, close. And how many went to the backs? Because there was a bunch of screens to the backs, right?
480 had an 80-yard screen to Ryan Grant.
Yeah.
That was it though. Just 90 yards total.
Yeah, but
Kuhn had a couple.
There was one. I think one touchdown was on the last play of the half or something. It was like there was a situation. It was an accident. It was a great accident.
Do you know who won the AP Rookie of the Year in Dan Marino's rookie year? It wasn't Dan Marino.
Was it Dickerson?
It was Eric Dickerson. Yeah. He led the NFL in carries, touches, and yards. 2,212 scrimmage yards, 20 touchdowns, 390 carries.
Most underappreciated
second
running back
in MVP voting.
He's the most underappreciated running back who ever played.
Had quite a swag about him too.
Oh yeah.
I think it has to be in terms of playoff. I think it has to also be like there's not a lot of rookies in the playoffs.
No,
light it up. So Yeah, I think that one's a firm true. All right, next one. Does the NFL need to do something about the roughing the passer rules?
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's not just the roughing the passer rule, grabbing the face mask rule too. You got to be able to look at it. You got to be able to go to the replay assist and say, okay, it's a penalty. There was a penalty. They grabbed the mask.
True.
I'm all in on that. If you got a mechanism to correct your wrongs, why not? And if you go to replay assist, they go boom. It's not going to slow the game down.
No, it takes 2 seconds.
Right. So I'm with you. I think they need to fix that.
Half the time, I bet they would call up to ask, and the person said, "We already looked. Pick the flag up."
You're going to Mahomes when he got hit. Supposedly when Will Anderson hit him, he didn't hit him in the head.
He hit him with his head.
Right, but he didn't.
Which you're not allowed to do. So now he's
not allowed to lower the crown.
We're splitting hairs.
Right, but if they had looked at it, they wouldn't have called that.
The reason that they called it is because the official that was making the call was behind Patrick, saw the head snap back, saw the giant man running at him. I understand it.
Well, here's where we'll go with this one too. There was a big holding call in the Bills game.
That was such bullshit.
It was terrible.
And great job by Romo being like, "Hey, that's teach tape there."
Do you go look at that too? Because now we're talking about looking at everything.
I like that.
I do. I think so. I think in the playoffs only.
Playoffs only.
Only playoffs. You just don't need it every regular season game. You get different camera angles, whatever. But playoffs only, there's too much money on the line. There's too much just like credibility that you don't need people discussing flags.
Well, let me ask this. Is it
3 days later
only looking at calls? Because I'll give you the other one, the play that if there's a play where there looks like there's a pass interference and they don't call it, do you look at that?
You can't add a penalty through review. You can take them away.
Take one away.
You should be able to.
Really?
I think now you're starting to really
slippery slope. So that was the whole genesis of the Saints-Rams flag, the PI, right? That was why we had PI for a year, was because of the obvious. Who was it that hit? One of the Rams DBs,
right?
What was it? Nickel Roby, right? Hit Saints wide receiver.
Was it
early? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, but that was the genesis of why we got that one weird year of reviewing PIs. But I think they did it wrong. It should just be any flag that on the very first replay you can tell it's wrong. Where everyone
any flag
or any non-flag where everyone at home saw it and was like, that should have been a flag.
Yeah,
like a face mask. A guy gets his face mask grabbed, pulled down by his face mask. They don't throw the penalty. Everyone at home's like, that was a flag.
Now every time a quarterback scrambles to the right or the left, they're going to call holding on these tackles too.
No.
Then the game starts to slow down.
Yeah, I think if we get to the point where we're using it for everything, I think you're really risking the game being out of the flow of it.
But you don't actually review. It's just there's another guy basically buzzing down saying,
here's the other part of that equation.
So there's another ref in the sky.
Like it,
boop, boop. You missed it, buddy. I mean,
you better keep that guy's keep him anonymous.
Well, but not just that.
If he's going to be sweat. But I mean, imagine being a fan of the other team when the flag gets called from the shadow man upstairs.
I think
I'm going to try to figure out who he is.
There's certain things that should be reviewed. If a penalty, I mean, like a mask is grabbed and it's not called, I'm okay with that. We can all see that. Like what defines pass interference isn't always easily defined. And so that's the biggest difference. Roughing the passer, we started with roughing the passer. You know what roughing the passer is. The league doesn't always call roughing the passer right. By the time we see the replay, we know if it's right or wrong. You know what it is. A shove, 2 steps and a shove, roughing the passer. It's not violent. But it's roughing the passer.
It's against the rules.
Hand to the head, roughing the passer. Helmet to the head, roughing the passer. The one that I have problems with that they call too much is the body weight on the quarterback, because sometimes you can't hit him low, you can't hit him high, you're grabbing him and you're going through him, and somehow your body weight ends up on top of him.
Hey, it happens. I mean, and that's a tough spot to be in as a defensive lineman. I can't even imagine. But I think to get back to the origins of this, I think we should add that sky judge. I think that's the easiest way to do it. Now, the particulars on some of these calls, you'd have to figure it out.
Yeah, you have to figure that out. But I'm with you. Quick, bang.
Yeah.
Replay system.
All right, next one. With Ben Johnson off the board now, is Joe Brady the top OC head coach again?
I think Liam Cohen is going to be the top.
I love Liam Cohen.
I think both of them are. I think both of them are. Look, they're both really good offensive coaches. I don't know Liam Cohen very. I don't know. I know people that know him and speak highly of him. Joe Brady, I've talked to. I like Joe Brady. I think Joe Brady's got a little edge to him, which I like. I want my coach to have a little edge to him. But I've heard nothing but really good things about Liam Cohen. And look, as much as Dave Canales got rave reviews in Tampa for what he did, they were raving about Liam Cohen taking over when he took over, about what he was going to do with the run game concepts and how he's changed it. And Baker was much more comfortable with Liam Cohen than he was with Dave Canales.
I tend to agree. I think Liam Cohen's probably just slightly.
I think he's the favorite. I think he's the favorite in Jacksonville.
I think
by the
Todd
way,
Monken also. I might even take over Joe Brady.
I've known Todd a long time. Todd, here's Todd. Todd's a lot like me when you gruff, crazy in some ways until you get to know me. Then you look at him and you go, oh, I don't know if we can handle him.
Yeah.
That first impression. He's the first impression guy that people might get turned off by, but Todd's a good dude and a good coach. I think
his track record at this point is tough to argue against, whether it was how his career in Tampa Bay looks in retrospect, how Georgia and their offense is
Southern Mississippi
after him. Yeah.
Look at Southern Mississippi. He was the head coach of Southern Mississippi. He made them relevant. They were decent. I mean, they haven't been decent since. Todd Monken's a good football coach, but he can be harsh, curmudgeonly, I guess is the way. I like Todd, and Todd, Todd was a wide receiver coach in Jacksonville for a while. I mean, Todd's a good coach,
old school,
very old school.
What about this? Tampa needs to. What are your thoughts on the Tampa situation with Liam Cohen? Would you ditch Todd Bowles for Liam Cohen?
No, I don't think they're ditching Todd Bowles. This is another thing I've heard. They're not ditching Todd Bowles, but they're concerned that Todd Bowles might walk away in a year or two, and they're going to try and do. I've heard they're going to try and do everything in their power to keep Liam Cohen and make him kind of the next the heir apparent. So, I think that's a possibility.
Yep.
Interesting. All right, last one here. Do the Eagles even need a passing game when the run game and defense are so dominant?
No, I mean,
eventually you will.
Tackle to tackle. Doesn't matter what define a passing game. I mean, do we still have the ability to throw the football in this hypothetical?
Yeah, but passing game is it.
Because I think they can go out there.
Passing game in the.
They can run it.
Left, right?
You're 100% right.
Yeah,
but you can take away that passing game with 14 play drives. And if you're going to have a group to do it, it's the Philadelphia Eagles up front. It's Saquon Barkley. You can tell that he has enough juice in the tank when he's scoring on these long runs and then doing he's bounding in the end zone, just jumping around. You're not supposed to have that kind of energy. You can lean on him.
If it was flag football, he would have scored.
I wouldn't be surprised if he had 150 plus again, and then the Super Bowl had 200.
But
that could be what we're looking at.
Is it him or is it the offensive line?
We say that you stay on schedule as an offense with your offensive line. They get you to that 4.2 yards per carry before contact. But then it's the guy like Saquon that can take you to the home run.
Correct. The home run part is there. But my God,
I still think they'll get to the end zone. Okay. It just might take them 8 more plays.
But if it was flag football the other day, he would have scored.
Yeah.
That's how big that it was. The giant. It was a giant hole. And the other one to the right was a giant hole. When Jalen Hurts scored, it was a giant hole. I mean, I'm concerned. I'm not concerned because they are so good on the offensive line. What happens now that Hurts, if he doesn't have the threat to pull it? It's a different run game. It's a entirely different.
That's what I was going to say.
Put Tanner McKee.
I think they don't need a passing game as long as Jalen Hurts is still like another running back in the backfield.
Correct. You got to defend him differently.
Yes.
You don't have. If he can't run, you defend him entirely different.
Yes.
If Jalen Hurts breaks a shoelace in drive 1 this weekend, who are you putting in?
Oh, here's the thing. I think the passing game may even take a step forward if you put in Pickett.
That's what I'm saying. But who are you putting in, McKee or Pickett?
Oh, I don't know. It's tough to say. I would put in McKee, but
I'd put in McKee
based off how he looked. But
bigger hands.
But he can't run. Pickett could run a little bit behind that offensive line.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I tend to agree that they are that good along the offensive line. Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts are that dynamic, and their defense is unbelievable. So, yeah, I don't think they necessarily need it.